Hi everyone, welcome back. So today we are going to talk about earthquakes, and this is part of our natural hazards unit. So over the course of the next few weeks, we'll be talking about different hazards, including earthquakes and some other stuff. So today's warm-up is on Google Classroom. It's called Lesson 46 Warm-Up. The question is, what causes an earthquake? We've already discussed this. I just want to know what you remember. So for this question, please use your own thoughts and words and avoid using Google. So go ahead and answer that and pause the video. And when you're done, come back to the video and we will move forward. So today's agenda. We started with the warm-up. Then we did a really quick review. After that, we watched an earthquake demonstration. Then we filled out the natural hazards graphic organizer. And lastly, we did our exit slip. Today's goal is by the end of today, you will be able to use a model to explain the effects of earthquakes. So we are going to use a model today to see how an earthquake works. And our focus question for today is, what causes an earthquake? What are the effects? And how can we mitigate those effects? Let me move my face. So the word mitigate is bolded. You might not know what that means, but mitigate means to reduce or to stop. And usually we use the word mitigate when we're talking about something negative. So the effects of earthquakes are generally negative. The earthquakes are pretty destructive. So we do want to mitigate those effects. We want to reduce the amount of damage and harm that earthquakes do. All right, so really quickly, let's review a little bit from last class. So thinking back to the reading you did last week, what type of hazard is an earthquake? So an earthquake is, and our options are geologic, atmospheric, or other. An earthquake is actually a geologic hazard. So remember GEO, that means earth or dirt or rock. So earthquakes are geologic hazards. And when we talk about geologic hazards, we have two different kinds. We have interior and surface. And that kind of describes where the hazards start. So an earthquake is actually an interior geologic hazard. It starts in the center of the earth, or not in the center of the earth, but it starts underneath the surface of the earth, just underneath the surface of the earth. And then as energy travels through the crust, it actually goes out to the surface. So again, I misspoke. Earthquakes happen near the surface of the earth, not in the center of the earth. That's way too deep. I misspoke. Cool. So now that we kind of remember that earthquakes start near the surface of the earth, not at the surface of the earth, but near the surface of the earth, we're ready to move on to talking about earthquakes. So really quickly, did you know that during recorded history, more than 13 million people have died as a result of earthquakes, and that about 1 million of those deaths have occurred in the 20th century? In one earthquake alone in Turkey in 1999, more than 17,000 people were killed. And when you include secondary effects of an earthquake, like a tsunami, the death toll can be even more disastrous. On December 26th, 2004, nearly 300,000 people tragically lost their lives in the tsunami that was generated by the Great Sumatra Andaman earthquake. So from that paragraph, we've heard a lot of people have died as a result of earthquakes over, for as long as humans have been writing down history. And especially in the 20th century, between 1900 and 2000, more than 1 million people died. So earthquakes are really important for us to understand. It's important that we understand the causes. Because if we understand the causes, we can think about ways that we can keep people safe from the damage earthquakes cause. So that's sort of why today's topic matters. They're really destructive, but we have some power to prevent some of that damage. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and take a look at the earthquake model. So this earthquake model, Ms. Chowdhury was very kind to make for us. So in this model, we're going to use Jello to represent what is happening inside the Earth when an earthquake happens. So if you go on Google Classroom right now, there's a post called Lesson 46, Earthquake Model Component Map. On this component map, you're going to see the different components of the model, and I want you to write what these different components represent. So for example, Jello represents some part of the real world. I want you to write it down right here. I'll give you a hint. Jello actually represents magma inside of the Earth's mantle. And graham crackers then are going to represent the crust of the Earth. Right? So you're going to go back to the PowerPoint and you're going to go through it until you reach the video. As you go through it, I want you to fill out this chart. And as you watch the video, I want you to fill out this chart as well. Ms. Chowdhury is going to give you some of the answers to these boxes as you watch the video. Right? I'm not going to show you the video right now because there's no point. It's already been made. You can watch it on the PowerPoint. But after you watch the video, I want you to answer this question. How do these four components interact? So how does Jello interact with graham crackers, interact with marshmallows, interact with the tapping? Right? How are those four things related? And when you're done watching the earthquake model, I want you to also watch this Earthquakes 101 video from National Geographic. This just gives you another overview of earthquakes, and it has some pretty good visuals and lots of good information. And then we're going to move on to the last thing for this lesson, which is the Natural Hazards Graphic Organizer. So if you go on Google Classroom, you are going to see the Natural Hazards Graphic Organizer. It looks like this. And you'll notice the name of this assignment does not have a lesson. Usually, all of my posts start with lesson 46, blah, blah, blah. This one does not. And that's because we're going to be using it for multiple lessons. So throughout this unit, we're going to keep adding to this Natural Hazards Graphic Organizer. As we talk about earthquakes, volcanoes, tornadoes, and hurricanes, we're going to decide what the causes of those hazards are, what the effects are, and how we can predict or mitigate the effects. So right now, go ahead and add the cause of this hazard. Sorry, right now go ahead and add the cause of earthquakes, which we've already talked about. And then I want you to add 3 effects of earthquakes. And these 3 effects of earthquakes, that's actually the exit sub question for today. So once you add the exit sub question on your Natural Hazards Graphic Organizer, which we just looked at, fill out the effects box next to earthquakes. Write at least 3 different effects. For this question, use your own thoughts and words. Avoid using Google. When you're done writing 3 effects, go ahead and submit this on Google Classroom. You will only have filled in 2 boxes. That's okay. I'm going to check your work, and then I'm going to give it back to you. The next class, we'll keep adding to it, and we'll keep adding to it, and we'll keep adding to it. Now, to help you come up with 3 different effects, on my PowerPoint, there's another PowerPoint embedded within. And this other PowerPoint is going to show you a bunch of different effects that are possible from earthquakes. So I want you to go ahead and take a look at these different pictures and find 3 different possible effects of earthquakes. Right? And that actually is that completes our lesson for today. So I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in class next time.